Hello, hello, and welcome back. I have not been here for quite some time, and we'll dig into that. But first, I want to introduce Kelly Meyerson. We finally had to hit record because we were having such a great conversation before we even started. I was like, stop, we gotta stop talking. Kelly holds the sacred pause where becoming gathers its first breath. Oh, God, I love that. She is a mystical guide and amplifier. She cultivates transformative healing spaces through human design, intuitive pattern recognition, and nervous system attunement. Through her podcast, Bridges to Beacons and Threshold Sessions, she guides women into authentic expression, embodied leadership, and the world changing service they are called to offer humanity. Oh, let's all just take a deep breath. Oh, God, I love that. Kelly, it's so fun. Every time we have a conversation, we're like, blah, 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 right? We've already been talking for 15 minutes before we hit record. So, welcome. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today.
Thank you so much for having me, Francine. And yes, guilty as charged. I say that at the start of every single podcast I do. I'm like, I'm so sorry. We were having this amazing discussion, and I realized, oh shoot, I should be recording this.
Right? It's so true. It's so true. I think that happens every time you and because this is the second time you've been on my podcast, and I've been on yours a couple of times, and we definitely have shit to talk about. So, let's just dive in. I always love to talk about like my clients' journeys, right? Like,
Mhm.
how did you get from, Kelly in high school to like kick-ass Kelly? So share your story.
Ooh, I love that. I love that you started in high school because that is like where I think I really honed in my skills as a people pleaser. And tried to control all the details of my future. I mean, I was literally like a 15-year-old, like, what am I going to do with my life? you
Right,
know,
right.
when am I like, I was the kid who was banging on my guidance counselor's door and saying, Mr. Taddy, I need to figure out what I'm doing with my life post high school. What am I going to college for? What will my career be? Like, I was super interested, which is like no shocker. I'm a 1-3 in human design. The one is like all about that foundation and research and deep dive. So of course that's how I'm going to approach. I'm not going to get this gut instinct of who I want to be and what I want to do. It's like it's got to be from the research.
Yeah.
So
I don't think
I
anyone should be having to decide in high school what they're going to do for the rest of their life. Can we just be clear if anyone under the age of 25 is listening to this because like it's going to change?
it's oh my god, it's going to change so many times. And yet I see there are pieces like at that time I understood like that I was here to be of service to humanity.
Mm,
I don't think I said it in that way, but I knew I wanted to go into a service profession, and I knew I wanted to be able to take care of myself in the future. I think like that's where some of those financial childhood wounds come from for me. Like
sure.
my parents instilled in me, you can't trust or believe that anybody else is going to take care of you. So you've got to take care of yourself.
Oof.
And that like played into, I took it to like a whole nother level. Like you can't mess up. You got to be perfect. You got to do a great job, show up for your classes, like study hard. And I was not an easy student. I mean, looking back now, I'm like, the signs were there, the young girl with ADHD, like,
Right.
and like I know a lot of people say like, oh, I'm so ADD. I'm like, no, it's not in the like you get distracted by things, although that's part of it. It's how it like is insidious in relationships, in your skills. And what I did is I saw where I wasn't like everybody else, quote
Mm,
unquote, and I made that about me not trying hard enough. So I was like, well, I'm going to double down on how hard I can try, and pushing and pushing and pushing myself and blaming myself and shaming myself. All
mm,
of those things. You should be able to do this. You should be able to. So I did not learn a
mm.
lot in the classroom. I think a lot of that has to do with a very busy brain and the impulsivity in my brain. And so I would go through school highly exhausted by just the amount of information coming in. and then go home at night and like pour through my notes and teach myself the way that I needed to take in information. So I was actually like presented on paper as a very good student, but the level of exertion was beyond what anybody else was doing. My parents
Wow.
never had to tell me to do homework. They never had to ask me if I studied. They had to say put down the books and go outside. Like that was and it's still I feel like I still have to parent myself and be like, Kelly, put down the books and go outside because I can get in and just don't want to leave that. I love
Yeah.
those deep dives.
Gosh,
So,
that makes me so envious because for those of you watching on video, you see all these books behind me, and there's another room with more books, and like I just don't retain what I read. And
mm,
it's so hard for me. Like I'm such a kinesthetic learner,
mhm,
and but I
mhm.
so want to be able to like lose myself in a book and listen to books on audio. Like I have books on audio, I have books on bookshelves, and I want to learn that way, and it's just not my modality of
Mm,
absorbing information.
yeah, I totally get that. And I don't know even so much how much in reading I retained as a kid. Like, I
Mm.
think probably my eyes would skip over things. I think I was so intent on getting to the end. It's still like a problem for me. Like most people are like, oh yeah, I pick up a book and I sit and I read until I feel sleepy and I go to bed. No, I pick up a book and I read at bedtime and like it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, there's just 100 pages left. I could do this.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
like, no, I have to be like very disciplining with myself. No, Kelly cannot read a book in bed because Kelly will continue reading until said book is done. And then like if there's a sequel to that book, oh, forget it. Like it's
Oh,
just I have to like set very firm limits for myself about that. Um, I'm like a girl needs to wind down like nobody's business, which is a very manifesting generator thing, by the way. If you think because you're a manifesting generator, that means you can just hop and bop all over the place until like you're gonna put your head on the pillow. Very sorely mistaken. It has been my experience. It's the complete opposite. I need that like super extended wind down. And if I don't get that for myself, then that's when my busy brain starts, when my head hits the pillow. And that's,
interesting.
yeah. Yeah. Is this resonating with you, Francine?
Well, it's interesting because I don't feel like I have a wind down. My husband and I were just talking about that. I'm like, the only routine I have is like I wake up, I go to the bathroom, I wash my face, I brush my teeth. Other than that, like things just show like I even my meditation and my journaling, it's like I work it in, but I really want to create a ritual, if you will, right? Because like we
Mm-hmm.
will watch TV until we're like, we really should go to bed because it's, 11 o'clock or 11:30, and then force ourselves to go to bed and, may or may not read for 5 minutes until we fall asleep. But I know intellectually how important it is to have a wind down ritual, and I still don't have one. So yeah. But I will say the pause, right? Like I want to talk a little bit about this sacred pause that you talk about. There's so much I want to
Mm-hmm.
talk to you about. So, I've the podcast has been on hold for a couple of months,
Mm-hmm.
because I had to choose me, right? I had to take a
Mm-hmm.
pause and not push. In February of this year, I slipped on some black ice and fractured my elbow. Um, and I had a choice to make. I don't even know how many podcasts I have backed up that need to drop that were already recorded, right? You want to talk about people pleasing. These people are expecting me to launch their podcasts. I even had some scheduled that I rescheduled, right? You're the first one, and it's April. We're recording this on April Fool's Day, April 1st. And and there was a part of me that was like, should I, shouldn't I? Should I push this one off too? And I said, no, I think I'm ready to like, I'm having a surgery in a couple of weeks. So I know I'm not launching until after the surgery. So by the time that happens, I'll be post-surgery. And I have some other, medical stuff going on. And for someone who is a people pleaser, right? I would call myself a little in recovery and a control freak in recovery, right?
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
really has been very, I don't want to say hard to create the pause, but it is kind of that I had to practice what I preach, right? Like I tell my clients to like take a break, and I'm like, well, if I can't do it, then who am I to be telling others to do it?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, what I would love to hear your definition of what a sacred pause is.
Mm.
When I think of that, like to me, it could be like 10 seconds, right? Like it could just be just taking a deep breath, and it could be sitting on a mountaintop for half a day or a month or whatever, right? Both could be true.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you're gonna laugh
Go for it.
because what's coming into my mind, which is always I have like this I call it clair audience,
Yeah.
like audience, like an audience of people, not clair audience.
Oh, okay.
So what's coming into my head is, do you remember Susan Powder, the who like eating all the potatoes? This was like
Yeah.
probably late 80s. And it was like she used to say, "Stop the insanity." Like that was her catchphrase. So
Okay.
Spirit is telling me like it's the sacred pause is about stopping the insanity.
Yeah.
It's not even, and you're so right. It could be 10 seconds. And for some of us, 10 seconds is enough. For some of us, it's like sometimes it's months long, weeks long, even years. And
Yeah.
I think the pause becomes sacred when it's intentional, when it's giving you this moment to just suspend animation and recalibrate.
Yeah.
Who am I? What is my purpose? Where am I going? And to feel like it's okay to do that. And I could tell you a really funny story, which I think anyone who's listening who has like a spiritual interest or lens will appreciate. So back a few months ago, I was getting ready to do a human design bridge session with someone, and so part of preparation for that is for me, I go into my Akashic records, and it's not for me to read the person, it's for me to get the insight that I need to be in the right place to support the person that I'm
Yeah.
meeting with. And so typically what happens is I breathe, I get into a very meditative state, I open my Akashic records. And most of the time, either I find myself, I have inner vision. So I'm like sitting cross-legged in a grove of trees, or I'm on a beach, or I'm in a big field, or up in a tree, or usually it's very nature-based. But this time I literally got pulled into a cave, which was like literally in like a wrinkle in time. And
Mm.
these two old women, I call them the twins, these two old women, they pulled me in, they sat me down, they took off my shoes and socks and rolled up my pants, and they put my feet in some warm water. And like at first I was just observing, like, this is interesting, this hasn't happened before. They had a pot over a warm fire, boiling water. And the one woman comes over and puts a blanket over my shoulders and puts a plate in front of me with warm bread and homemade butter. And she's like, "Eat this." Like they're just bustling and hustling about their little
Yeah.
cave with their kitchen, and if you can imagine all this. And I'm like, okay. So I mean, I'm gluten free, so I don't often get bread and butter. So I was like, I'm gonna eat the bread and butter because I figure if I'm in my Akashic records, it's totally fine with all my
Right.
allergies.
I
So
love
I
that.
eat the bread and butter. I'm enjoying the warmth, the coziness of being in there. And like I got up the nerve to be like, this is so lovely. I actually was on the way to my Akashic records to like prepare for an upcoming human design session with someone, and they were like, "Oh, you're not doing that right now. That's not happening." These are like little old like if you ever thought of a crone, these were like little crones. They were like, and they meant no, like business. Like you're not
Yeah.
gonna second guess what I'm telling you. whoever they are, they're big time, right?
Yep.
So they're like, no, 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 that's not happening. And so after they fed me the bread, they got me all cozied up in a bed and I could look out at stars, and they tucked covers in tight and they said, it's time for you to rest. Like, you could be here, but you're going to rest. And I was like, okay, okay. So I did. I rested, and I'm like, I'm aware that outside is all possibility out the
Mm.
door, but it didn't even occur to me to try to leave. Like, I just stayed and I rested and used it more as like a deep meditative state, probably like a yoga nidra or something like that.
Yeah.
And then when I came out of it, I was like, well, that was weird. I was like, I got to write that one down. That didn't happen before. So like a couple days go by and I'm like, okay, it's been a couple days. Like let me go like try again. And the same thing happens. They pull me in again. They're like, you did not get the message. It is not time for you to do this work. It is time for you to
Mm.
rest. And so they pulled me in again. They made me take a bath. They like tucked me in. And I was like, where the heck
Like, don't
are
make
we?
us handcuff you to this bed.
For real. They're like, you're going to rest whether you want to or not. Like, the universe is giving you zero option here. Like, this is
Right.
what's happening for you. And so they just basically explained to me that it's just like a pocket in the wrinkled fabric of time
Mm.
where like passerbys can stop and rest. And and I was like, wow, that's so potent and powerful. That idea of like the universe is conspiring in my favor to take a nap.
I love that.
All the things the universe is like, universe, what should I do? Well, I think a nap would be nice right now. And it really just it struck me that sense of like the need for us to very intentionally get connected with what our soul needs. And I think at that moment in time, my soul needed rest. And I mean, this was in January, so a very restful kind of time, like
Mm.
a literal wintering, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it was just prior to me being one of the guides on the Untamed Leader Retreat with Lori Smith. And I told that story to everybody because I was teaching on human design. And I said, it's funny to me that for a manifesting generator, and like I can operate super fast and bend time and do things, it almost feels like when I take a rest, it's against the work, right?
Oh, 100%. I get that, right? Because there's shit we got to do.
But it's not. What I
Right.
realized when I rest, it's more like when you're at a pinball machine and you're pulling back the ball,
Mm.
and you're pulling back and you're like, well, this would probably carry it pretty far, but would it carry it all the way to the back of the machine? Probably not.
Right.
So you pull back further and further and further, and you like wait for that just right time to just release it. So that's to me what sacred pause is. And like,
Yeah.
how far back do you have to go? How deep does the pause have to be? I think it's all depending on who you are and what you're going through.
Yeah.
But being open to the intention of getting into presence. And, you talk about a different kind of sacred pause. You talk about that sacred pause that happens when your capacity to give
Mm.
is is really become limited, not in a negative sense, but like your boundaries have to all of a sudden come closer to you. um, and I think the mistake that so many of us have made is believing that push, that force, that hustle a little bit harder, putting a little bit more in, is where we're going to make the difference. When I think, and I mean,
It's in the
I've
quiet. It's in the
it's
space
in
in
the
between.
quiet.
It's in the space in between.
And it could be those 10 seconds where you're recentering, or you're clearing your body of the other emotions of people around you. If you're someone like me, I'm like so permeable at times. I'm feeling everybody's stress and
Right.
worries, and I've got an open head and ajna. So like there's all kinds of stuff bouncing around up there. Um, I have to figure out like, where am I in this mess? And literal suspended animation, like just stop everything, freeze, let me look around, let me check in with myself. For me, it's like I got to get into my heart and check in. Like, is this where I'm supposed to be? What I'm supposed to be doing? Is it for me? Is it not? Let's clear out some of those things that aren't supposed to be mine to carry.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and I will say like it's a practice. And for those of us that are really good at doing, like it is a practice. Like when I made the choice, and I will say it was a very easy choice to put the podcast on hold, to cancel appointments, because over the last few years I've learned I have to take care of my vessel. And there's been a lot of need to be taken care of in the last couple of years. But if I am not taking care of me, then what, right? I actually had someone recently, um, I had this awareness, and I think part of me always knew this, but I am more of a kinesthetic psychic, right? She's like, you know, you're
Mm,
psychic. And I was like, yeah, yeah, like, but I'm not like the people who are seeing things, right? I have this feeling and this knowing. And at the end of the session, I went, oh, all this stuff going on in my body, and it's most of it is all on the right side, like that's breaking down, and I have like this knee that's stuck on my left side. So I'm like, how much of this is information? Like it's all information, right? Of this breakdown of the masculine, right? Of the doing. Yet
mm.
there's still this stuckness in the feminine in the being side, right? And it's like, where's the balance? I had a coach years ago who used to say to me, um, just believe. She did a lot of Abraham Hicks, and she would be like, just believe it and it'll happen. I'm like, I can't sit at home eating bonbons and clients are going to be like, hi, Francine, take all my money, right? Like, there still needs to be aligned action,
Yeah.
right? So, like, how bridging the two together, right?
Hmm.
And that's a lot of the work I do with my clients is that, yeah, you know the strategy. But there's nervous system shit that's happening that's stopping you from doing the thing. So push. So when your nervous system is dysregulated, you're just pushing, and hoping it's gonna do something. But really, you have to blend the two to take that aligned action, right? To
Mm.
like actually step forward and be like, oh, this feels good. I don't feel like I'm pushing. I don't feel like I'm trying too hard. This is where I'm exactly where I'm meant to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's not making it mean anything too. Like,
Right.
don't judge yourself,
Oh,
but
when I fell
like
on
just
the
say, what's this information?
when I fractured, broke whatever the elbow, oh God, I was like, okay, what's the message here? Because there were
Yeah,
so many things that, and I was like, all right, and what if it's just a broken elbow, right? Like, what if it's just,
shit
you know,
happens.
yeah. Let's talk a little bit about human design because I know you're pretty passionate about human design. So, for people that don't actually know what it is or are somewhat newbie to it, like me, like I get it conceptually, but it hurts my brain every time I get a reading. I'm like, I don't understand. There's so many parts and pieces, like it hurts my brain. So, share at a high level what it is and how you use it with your clients.
Okay, I love this question. So, human design is a lens. It's your energetic blueprint, very similar to something like your astrology chart. You run your birthday, time, and place, and it has to do with where the planets, the sun, the moon, the earth, etc., were at the time of your birth. And so there are different types energetically, and you have something called a body graph chart. And similar to the chakra systems, there's 9 centers, not seven like the traditional, but it's basically that same concept. You have your head, your ajna, your throat, your G center, which is kind of your sense of who you are and your direction. There's your will or ego center, which is part of the heart center and your emotional solar plexus. And then there's your sacral center, which if you're a generator like you and I, manifesting generators and generators,
Yeah.
that's activated if you're a projector, reflector, or manifester. You don't have consistent sacral life force energy, which doesn't mean that you don't have it. It's just not consistent. And then you have your spleen, which is where your fears, intuition can tend to live, and your root, which gives you your sense of pace and timing. So if you're someone like me who has an open head and an open root, it can kind of create this sense of pressure to
Mm,
always be like the timing, the doing, the going, the pressure to be right. And so I think which centers are consistent or not for you can be one way of examining your experience. Your authority, which is how you make decisions. So, like, for example, if you have emotional authority like me, I have to go through an emotional wave and wait to make decisions because I need to feel it in its high and its low states and kind of come to a mid. Some generators have sacral authority, which means they get like a body like, it's for me, or and it might be like a very guttural sound, and so on and so forth. I won't get into all the nitty gritty details, but it's a way of examining how you energetically came into the world. So I like to tell people to approach it with agency, with sovereignty. Like, it is not prescriptive. It doesn't mean like if you feel something doesn't resonate, it's totally fine to reject
right.
it.
Yeah.
Like, if
It's
you,
like with anything,
it's
right?
like with
Yeah.
anything, like, you know, any of those Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, like, you can look at all of those and there can be some truth to it. You know, I liken it to like, if you've ever studied astrology, like the first thing you learn is your sun sign, but there's so much more to it than that.
Right.
Some of us are more suited to going into the weeds, and some people like you need to just be like, does this resonate or not? Nope. Like, yeah, I guess I kind of get that, but you're like, I don't want to spend any more time looking at all this stuff. So there's people like me who, like I said, I'm a 1-3. Like,
Right.
I it's the pairing of the 1 is the researcher, the deep diver. The 3 is experimenting. So I research, I experiment, I try it. So what I'm able to come out with is my interpretation of it, my deep dive. So, like, Francine, you don't need to go get 15 different books about human design and
I
study it
bought
because I've
two and
already
haven't even opened them.
haven't even opened them. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. Like, and for me, because you're not the first person that I've met who is like, this is just way too much for me. And it is a lot of details. And
Yeah.
it might be that your brain and body does not want all the details. Like, just give me, like, what do I do with this? What does
Right.
this mean?
Right. And what I will say, the one thing that one of the first times I had someone do my human design a couple of years ago, I'm a responder.
Mm-hmm. As a
And that
generator.
created so much, I'll stay with
Mm-hmm.
the same word, space for me, because I used to say things like, I'm not creative. And really, what that meant was if you gave me a black blank canvas, I would freeze. But if
Exactly.
you said to me, do you want to paint this gray or green? I could give you an answer. Do you want to paint it light gray or dark gray? I could give you another answer. But if you just said, what color do you want to paint it? I go,
Da-da-da. And
And
yeah,
knowing just even that little piece of I'm a responder
yeah.
helps me now. Like, AI, I mean, I love AI because I'll be like, hey, knowing what you know about me, what are 4 topics I can talk about? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great. And if somebody says, "Yeah, we want you to do a talk," I go, "What do you want me to
Mm-hmm.
talk about?" Right? Like if you tell me I want you to talk about X, no problem. I can work on that. But if you say, "What do you want to talk?" like that, and it's not that I can't figure it out, but it's more painful. It takes longer.
Yes. The processing is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this like on having that freedom of knowing this is just how you're wired, and there's that it's always going to be a little bit harder. So now use tools that will help this be easier for you,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
That's
Do
why
you?
like I working with clients, right? Like I don't
Yes.
come to a session with an intention ever, but also like I can respond to what's happening in the session because that's what I do.
Totally.
Yeah.
100%. And I
Yeah.
think it's right for you too. You know, I think that I think is the most resourceful way to go about human design, like taking a piece of it. So for you, how you make decisions, how you respond to things, and playing with it and recognizing I'm always going to do better if you give me an either or a yes no, or give me choices, give me
Yeah.
something to pick from. Plus, like you have inner vision like I do. So like you need to be able to envision it. If you
Mm.
just say like, like you said, like here's a blank canvas, paint something. I hate that. That
I
to
need to
me is like,
understand the whole
what do
process.
you want? What do you want me to do with this? What do you want me to do
Right.
with this? But like if somebody says to me, imagine this. Okay.
Right.
You're in a forest and there's an old cottage with stone walls and a big wooden door and a brass handle. Like I'm like, ooh, okay. Like
Yeah.
what if you put that on the canvas? Like that I can do, but you can't just like throw something at me. So I think that's important. I think if I were to offer you something as like the next step, and you may already have a lot of this because you're so tuned into your joy and that
Mm.
frequency of like positive energy for yourself. But for generators, our signature is satisfaction, and our not self theme is frustration. So I like to say, like, when you're feeling in alignment, when you know what you're doing, it's like it just feels really good and satisfying in your body.
Mm.
Like even if you're exhausted from working with a client, like when you finish that session, you're like, this was meaningful, this was right for me.
Right.
Versus like those of us who have done work and jobs where we're just pushing ourselves and we just feel frustrated. We
Right.
get to like that negative end of the spectrum and it's just not resourceful for us. And in that state, we sort of shut down everything else. So I think that's another place to look. And because you're a manifesting generator, you can also experience what manifestors experience, which is anger versus peace.
Yeah.
Right? So like if yeah,
I can
so
own that. Absolutely.
raging
Yep.
raging against the machine. And
Yeah.
the reason I like to say in alignment or out of alignment is because it's not about like judging yourself. It's like you
Right.
said, it's information. If I start to feel frustration or anger around like somebody else asking me to do one more freaking thing, I'm like, oh, Kelly, where have you made a mistake and not had boundaries? And then I'm like, okay, so I know I'm immediately going to go to my chart. I'm immediately going to go to gate 40 and be like, this is where like the lower frequency of that and the sign that I'm out of alignment is going
Yeah.
to be around boundaries with people.
Interesting.
And so I can look at every gate has its own um, variety of flavors. I like to say flavors or spices, right?
Yeah.
So there's a shadow state, there's a gift state, and then there's a acidic state, which is kind of like the highest soul state. So like
Okay.
maybe that's our North Star. That's where we want to aim for that particular gate. But like mostly we want to exist in the gift, but we want to know when the shadow shows up, that's the opportunity or that's the information. Like if I'm literally raging against the machine, like I know if I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling frustrated, that's when like the sacred pause is like, oh, what's really going on here right now in my
Right.
body? What am I really experiencing? Where is it in my body? Is it my head? Is it my throat? Is it my gut? Like what is making me feel like something is off?
Hmm.
And for me, is it in my immediate world and environment? Is it something me that I'm doing? Is it something that's happening to other people in my world or like in the world in general?
Right.
And realize when I feel myself get into those patterns and like believe me, I've got a defined throat. I've got an open head. I've got energy for days. If I start to like really rage about something, like there is no
You're gonna
end.
know about it.
Like you're going to know about it. It's just going to be coming out of me. And that's when I'm like, oh shit, what's happening right now? Stop,
Right.
pull it all back. And even though it's easy for that to just come out of me, is it the most productive use of my energy? And where do I need to recognize in my sacred pause that that's me being highly empathetic and seeing what's happening to other people and thinking that through my raging against the machine with my voice is going to make a difference. And most of the time, it just rallies other people to be
Right.
like, for or against, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
And it's not productive or resourceful. So, like, if I know that's what it is, then I'm like, what is the gift state and how do I get into that state?
That.
What are my tools that get me there?
I love that. Oh my gosh. There's so much I want to talk to you about, but we're starting to run out of time. But there is one thing I want to touch on is this, you talk about nervous system attunement, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I also work with, it wasn't until recently that I actually started talking about, I've always worked with the nervous system, but I never actually said that. I used to just say, oh, we get to the root of what's keeping you stuck, which is the nervous
Mm-hmm.
system stuff. But I started saying, oh, I work with nervous system regulation because I'm an EFT practitioner. That's what we're doing, right? We're regulating the nervous system. And all of a sudden, everyone's piping up and going, you do nervous system work? And I'm like, oh, apparently it's like a buzzword now, right? And everyone's jumping on the bandwagon. So
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, what exactly, when you say attunement, what does that look like? What does that mean?
Well, first of all, yeah, I totally appreciate what you're saying about like all of a sudden everybody's talking about the nervous system. I'm like, kids, I've been at this my entire career as an occupational therapist. I've been
Sure.
working
Yeah.
with nervous system attunement forever. Like since the beginning of my career, I got my certification in sensory integration, and so I think what I started to recognize probably in like 2016, 2017, like all this work I've been doing with kids and with families with children with special needs, working on balancing nervous systems and understanding what they need to be in the best state and be like if I'm in school to be available to learn. So for us it's the availability for other people for our work to have capacity, right?
Mm,
So understanding a lot of what we're experiencing as those blocks, like you said, is an imbalance in our autonomic nervous system, which is parasympathetic and sympathetic. So you talked before about like the balance of the right and left sides of the body, the feminine and the masculine, the yin and the yang, right? So we're talking about parasympathetic and sympathetic, and they're both important and they
sure.
both have function. So our parasympathetic is like rest, digest, heal, sleep, like all those things are coming out of there. Sympathetic is our fight or flight.
Mm,
And that sympathetic nervous system is really coming out of a very primitive lizard part of our brain that at a certain point in our species we needed to be able to protect ourselves
yeah.
from animals, other people attacking us. We needed to run, fight, flight, freeze, right? But we've adapted it in our modern world where we don't most of the time have to fight for our life or fight for food or get chased down by tigers, right? That doesn't really generally happen for most of us, especially if you're in the United
Oh,
States.
yeah.
I mean, except okay, I won't divert there. Coming back, but so what happens is when we're stuck in that state of fight or flight, and it can be an overactive brain, it can be your heart racing, it can be replaying experiences over and over again. So sometimes we create that. But fight or flight is also people pleasing.
Mm,
Fawning is one way that we go into fight or flight, and it's that response is a sympathetic nervous system response. And what it tells us is that how other people are behaving and feeling around me is upsetting my nervous system, and I feel out of control. So, getting attuned to your own nervous system is recognizing the ways that you seek to calm yourself by controlling other people. And when I realized that fawning was not being nice and kind and understanding and accommodating for people, but it's actually a function of an overactive sympathetic nervous system,
right.
I was like, that's actually the least helpful thing you could be doing because you're trying to control other people.
Yeah.
That's That's
That's
not
when I learned
healthy.
about codependency. I read the book
Yes.
Codependent No More, and I really had a hard time relating to it because I don't have a lot of addiction around me. So I couldn't relate
Hmm.
to it. And somebody
Hmm.
said to me, let me say it in your terms. If all of your actions and reactions are to control the other person so you feel safe, that's codependency. And I was like, that I can relate to. I was like,
Damn it.
okay.
That's what I've been doing all along. Yes,
Yep.
I like to say that I read one of Brene Brown's books before she like blew up, like back
Yep.
in like 2007. I
Right.
read her book. I thought it was just me, and it's all about codependency. And I was like, I don't even know how I came to it. Probably down one of my deep dives that I
Yep.
got this book. I'm reading this book, and I'm thinking same thing like you, like in my first marriage, I was married to somebody who had a problem with alcohol. And I was like, oh, this is just about me and being in a relationship with someone and addiction. And then she starts to go into all the ways that we become codependent and realized, oh my God, that's so me. I've been doing
Right.
that my whole freaking life. And I was like,
Right.
okay.
Well,
And
it's to
that's
keep you
where
safe, right? It's
yes,
like, yeah.
yes, yes. And I think it's that perception of safety, which I think
Oh, 100%. It's
you
such an
you
illusion. Yeah.
you don't actually have any control except in your own space. And I think that's where, just to pull it all together for people, having that sacred pause, knowing yourself from others, really tuning into what does my nervous system need? Where am I underserving myself in
Hmm.
terms of my regulation? And that may be not enough rest, not enough sleep, not enough play. And pushing past your comfort level or seeking to control, like you said, in order to make everything be okay. I think that's where the sacred pause comes in, to be able to be aware of what the heck you're actually doing and then make a better choice.
Oh my gosh, I could talk to you forever, but we are coming up on time. So tell people where they can find you and the best places, and how they can work with you.
You can absolutely find me on LinkedIn. That's where you'll find most of my posts and things. Also on Substack. I will be launching a website where people can go and run their human design charts. But the best place to work with me to get the really cool charts is to start with a bridge session, which is a free 30-minute session. We run your chart. You get to keep that chart. And
Highly
then
recommended. I had that done with Kelly a
Ah,
few months ago.
oh,
Yeah.
thank you. That's a great place to start, and we'll make sure we put all that in the show notes for
Yes,
people.
absolutely. Absolutely. And as I always do, I pull a card, and now we pull from the busy to being card deck, right? Yes, Kelly's got her
Oh.
own deck. So I pulled three cards before the start of the show, and I have them in front of me. I have a left, a right, and a center. So Kelly, I'm going to let you choose left, right, or center. Tap in and see which message you are meant
Right.
to hear. Right. That's this one. Okay. I love that. I don't always look at these before, but there's always some theme to the conversations. When was the last time you slowed down? And on the back, it says, life is not meant to be a race. Slow down, take a moment, and enjoy your journey. And
Dude,
right? And if you chose the middle one, it says, you're allowed to do less. Letting go doesn't mean falling behind, it means you're finally choosing yourself.
holy crap.
And then left. Your brain's job is to keep you safe. Oh, what if you let your body speak before your brain reacted?
Dude, I mean, you can't make this stuff up,
No, you
Francine.
really can't. You really cannot. Kelly, as always, it was so much fun chatting with you. All of Kelly's information, all of my information will be in the show notes. If this conversation stirred something in you and you're realizing you're done spinning and I want to invite you into having an up-leveling breakthrough session with me. It's a powerful space for us to look at what's really in your way and why you haven't shifted things, even though you've been trying. And if you want your own From Busy to Being card deck, you can go to my website, Forever Change Coaching, and get the cards there. For now, thank you so much for listening. And I'm excited to be back with all of you. Kelly, thank you so much.
My pleasure.